confidence actually was strengthened last year. Now, last year was was a terrible year for everything crypto. But if you think about what happened, it was the centralized, opaque players who went bankrupt: FTX, Celsius, 3 Hours Capital, and what did we see from Bitcoin? Bitcoin is completely decentralized and transparent. It started because of 0809, the lack of transparency in the traditional financial services ecosystem. And I remember when we did our research, and Art Laffer, I mentioned him. I mentioned him the first time he was on your show. Yep. He took us through what Bitcoin meant to him, and it was, wow, Art. This is a rules-based monetary. It's a rules-based digital monetary system, and it's global, and there's no human intervention. It's very disciplined. It's mathematically metered to top out at 21 million units. Well, in the last year, the last 3 years, the responses to COVID, the fiscal and monetary responses that, in many countries are causing hyperinflation and, fiscal crises. We're seeing protests and riots all over the place. Well, where do these people go for an insurance policy against an implosion in their purchasing power and wealth? It is in something like Bitcoin. Bitcoin is an insurance policy, and it is an insurance policy for everyone against confiscation of wealth.
Let's start with the balloon. Is this normal course? Have there been balloons flying over us for long? Do we have balloons flying over China?
Well, Andrew, listen, nations do reconnaissance for sure. This one is a bit bizarre and provocative because it's not going to gain much more intelligence than their low orbit satellites. So it just seems provocative, and it happens, quite frankly, at the wrong time. We have a new Republican-controlled House that's standing up a select committee on China. We have the Blinken trip. And so this is bizarre to me. It's just you don't get much value in doing this other than a poke in the eye. So I don't understand it.
Governor, I hate to pull random video off the internet and ask you to respond to it, but this is going around. It appears to be, it's on social media, video of an explosion over your state showing what looks like a smoke trail to the sky. We can't even guess as to what this is. Do you have any information about this?
Not at this point. I was notified of it just minutes before we came on the air. We're monitoring the situation. I'm talking to our National Guard to find out if they have additional information. I'm sure I'll be briefed here in the next hour.
Last question.
Welcome to the Crypto Teacher. And I come back with that video just to make you think.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.
And we have Cathie Woods, which we know is a puppet, but we also know she's invested in the fourth industrial revolution. But when it comes to Bitcoin, we know the central banks took it over and all major crypto projects. Guys, the only thing I have to do is look at the funding rounds. The big corporations and big banks have been funding it from the beginning. And what do I teach you? Follow the money. And Cathie Woods talks about the AI takeover. And we know she's invested in the robots, algorithms, and drones. She knows where this economy is going. And we know none of the mainstream media talks about the fourth industrial revolution, talking about getting the people prepared. They want to move the masses over without them even knowing. And we know majority of the masses are going to be out of work and are going to be entering inside the metaverse. And we have Jim Cramer coming with an angle, and then we have Cathie Woods coming with an angle. The Hegelian dialectic. And Jim Cramer says that the Fed is not going to cut because of the red-hot job market. And we know these job numbers are a lie. But guys, when it comes to Cathie Woods, she thinks the Fed is going to pivot. But we know the Fed is not going to pivot. Why, guys? Because we know the central banks want to destroy this legacy market in order for the fourth industrial revolution to rise. The only way we get this digital transformation is by destroying America to Babylon along with the United States reserve currency and the rise of the BRICS nations, led by China the dragon, along with the digital yuan backed by the digital SDR. And remember, the crypto teacher told you, because he knows when it comes to the New World Order, it's all planned out. You have a wonderful day.
Yes, we are in the very early days of what will become very immersive digital experiences. In fact, we believe that more than half of our spending will end up online as opposed to through physical stores, and that's part of our big ideas this year. Our team, led by Frank Downing and Nick Bruce, have done a terrific job, Andrew, as well, pulling together how this new world is going to work. So absolutely we do. I think what happened with Meta last night, I listened to the call, was fascinating. I think what's happening is Meta has an answer to TikTok. It's Reels, and Reels is taking off. They're also extremely focused on using artificial intelligence as they are activating this platform. And WhatsApp is also becoming a very important platform that they have not monetized, and now they're activating it. So really, really fascinating. And, just to give you a sense, Delta is working through WhatsApp right now to inform passengers when something goes wrong, and improving customer service dramatically. So, this could become a very big business use case. So yes, lots of big markets that Facebook. The other thing that Mark did was use the word efficiency. He must have used 15 times.
Investors liked it.
And in that vein, he was using artificial intelligence as well, because as we in Big Ideas, and you can find Big Ideas on arc-invest.com. In Big Ideas, we show the productivity increases that are possible because of artificial intelligence. It's these companies who could be some of the biggest beneficiaries if they harness AI correctly. I think a lot of people are looking for the killer app, like they look like these viral apps that the internet delivered.
Right.
The killer app for artificial intelligence is productivity gains, and any company does not harness it is probably not going to be one of the big winners out there. And just one other thing on AI. I think a lot of the hype is in companies that have AI in their names.
We talk about
but I
that
think
all
the
the
real
time.
winners, I know the real winners here are going to be those companies that have proprietary data and have lots of it. Have the best domain expertise, best AI expertise, the best pools of high quality data to basically create new business.
Comes to stocks, Cathie, it seemed the more Jay Powell talked, the more excitement you saw and moves to the upside when it came to both stocks and bonds. Does this market reaction make sense to you, or do you see some irrational exuberance, if you will?
No, if anything, I saw an exaggerated reaction last year to fears that inflation and interest rates were embedded in the system like they were in the 70s. And we just didn't believe that at all. In fact, we were seeing a lot of early signs of inflation coming down, actual deflation surfacing. So this does not surprise us. I think what has happened here, there are three people who have weighed in the last week who really have changed their points of view. One is Larry Summers. Larry Summers was almost apoplectic last year. So this is the former Treasury Secretary.
Right.
Almost apoplectic about inflation. And I think he truly influenced the Fed because he was so sure that we were in a 70s style inflation. If you'll notice in the last week, he said, okay, now don't signal what you're going to do in the future. We're seeing some economic economic weakness here. And I think the other thing he was saying, not explicitly, was, hey, some prices are coming down that I didn't expect to come down. You know, the oil price is roughly half of where it was last March. So that's the first person. The second person was Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen. And remember, I think the market last year got really upset when she changed her mind on transitory, and I think that fed Chairman Powell as well, and turned him into an even more hawkish mode, along with the rest of the board members. She this week said that now that inflation is coming down, we're probably going to be looking at the bigger risk being kind of mired in low inflation, low growth. Mm-hmm. That was a big change. And it effectively says, wow, maybe it was transitory after all. It was just a little longer than we expected. Who knew supply chain problems would last 2 to 3 years? Who knew Russia would invade Ukraine? And then the third thing that happened, this was really important, I think, in the Q&A, Chairman Powell himself said, I agree with Lyle Brainerd. We do not believe we're in the middle of a wage price spiral. And that's another code phrase for the 70s style inflation. So I think that is what the market's responding to.
Cathie, you've talked about, though, the threat of
I think I called the other day. I said that those who thought that Powell would cut interest rates later in the year, I called them clowns. And that wasn't fair. What I really should have said is that they're chowderheads, because it's really incredible to me that there were morons so stupid to believe that this man would say we need a couple of rate increases, and they doubted him. What do they know? I mean, he obviously had a sense that the economy is red hot still when it comes to wage and when it comes to job. And he said it, and he's prepared. And all this is going to do is say, all right, Powell knows more than the prognosticators, so I'm fine.
But you can't call a 10-year or a 2-year, or you're calling the participants chowderheads or clowns, because
there's so many people who look at the yield curve and they say, you know what? The yield curve says that they're going to cut, so they should cut. I read Sidney Homer's 500-page book about inside the yield curve. It was a page turner. But the one thing it taught me is don't look at what they are doing with the bonds. Think yourself about what could happen. And I say that the bond market, those guys were wrong. And it's okay. They've been wrong.
So you think that we were just having a discussion about whether the model that could you have people return to the workforce in the participation rate that they're not coming back causing wage increases. There's plenty of people employed, but it doesn't correlate with inflation. So the Fed is barking up the wrong neck of the woods.
No, Fed's just going to keep tightening until we get wage decreases. And that's why it was important to listen to what he said. I know a lot of people don't want to listen to what they said because it doesn't matter. They're wrong. Powell has a handle on this. Powell knew that wage inflation was still a problem. Otherwise, he would have stopped raising rates. So I just think that what's happening is this is a kind of a reset where the people who were so stupid as to think that he was going to cut rates get their heads handed to them, and then we get a new group of people in.
Import Chinese-based CBDC technology. So it's going to be CBDC in a box provided to you by the People's Bank of China.
The most powerful person in the world is the storyteller. The storyteller sets the vision, values, and agenda of an entire generation to come. Steve Jobs. And guys, you know I truly believe in this. When you look at the New World Order, they're the storytellers. And that's the reason why I wrote my New World Order book. But guys, now it's time to change the current generation. And I wrote 3 kids' books. You know, I love the Trinity because I understand the power that's in it. So I have 3 books. We have an opportunity to change the generation, to educate, not just me, but I want to show you that I take action on a daily basis. And I want you to take action on a daily basis. Whether it's your job, whether it's in your community, we have an opportunity right now to educate the masses. I posted this on my Twitter account. Please share, but this is a short clip of the 3 books. There's going to be a clothing line and action figures. Please get these books for your kids, nephews, cousins, friends, so therefore we can start the re-education now. Because as we see, the fourth industrial revolution foundation is definitely here. Robots, algorithms, drones, taking humanity out the picture. We have to re-educate. But let's get into the video.
Part 1. King Joshua and Drama Tam save the village. Part 2. King Joshua and Drama Tam save New York. COVID Stories 3. Part 3. King Joshua and Drama Tam goes to China.
It's mandatory to get part 1, part 2, and part 3 of this series. It's time to re-educate Generation Z.